Hi folks, this is a quick tutorial on how to do in-text citation in MLA format. Before you look at this tutorial, you should have looked at the other tutorial on how to create a bibliography, an MLA bibliography using EasyBib. Because once you have that bibliography, it will be in your Google Docs. So I'm going to go right to Google Docs, and what you see in this document is you see this Works Cited section down at the bottom. That's the stuff that I taught you how to do in the tutorial for an MLA bibliography. So that's going to come over from EasyBib. Now you're going to create an assignment. Let's say that this is a sample paragraph for an assignment, and this assignment had to do with the biological molecules lab. And I actually took this paragraph from a student's paper and I spiffed it up a little bit, but you may recognize it. So the first thing, if you're going to cite a textbook that has multiple authors, like our textbook that has 3 authors, you want to put that citation, you need to cite it in the paragraph or in the text where you actually have the information that came from that source. So let's say this first sentence, carbohydrates are molecules that are used for storing energy in living organisms. You got that from your textbook. You put the author's name followed by the page number where you find that. That goes inside parentheses and it goes before the period. So you'll see the period there. And that's all you have to do. So that sentence came from the textbook. It's not an exact quote from the textbook, and I really discourage you from using quotations. I want you to use your own words to describe or to relay the information to me that you found in a source. So here's another example. When we move along in this paragraph, it says, for example, sugars like fructose and sucrose are classified as carbohydrates. Now this person got that information from my lecture on organic chemistry and carbohydrates. So there's Freeman, and you can see our citation down here. It says Freeman Organic Chemistry. So because there's no page number associated with a lecture, you don't have to put a page number there. So it just says Freeman, period. Let's move on. This goes on to describe what the experiment was. And you'll see at one point it says to test the presence, it really should say for the presence of simple sugars, Benedict's reagents was dropped into 6 samples and heated for 2 minutes. Now that information came from the lab handout. If we go down here, we'll see that the lab handout does not have an author. All right? So there's no author here. Also, this lab handout probably didn't have any page numbers. I didn't check it, but if it didn't, you don't put a page number. If it did, you would have to put the page number that you got this information from. And that's pretty much it. You'll see that the rest of this you have to cite again and again. So this person goes on to say that what happens to the color change. Well, that color change, the brick red color being positive for monosaccharides, that's not something you know, like, we're born with that knowledge. That came from the lab handout. So you have to cite that again, cite the lab handout. So you need to cite the lab handout over and over, or the lecture over and over at the end of each sentence. And sometimes you might even put the in-text citation in the middle of a sentence. If the first part of the sentence you got from a source and the second part is your interpretation. So what do we mean by an interpretation? Well, look at this last sentence here. It says, the other samples tested negative for monosaccharides, which means they did not contain those molecules. That's your interpretation of what happened on a test. You didn't get that out of a textbook. You used the information about the tests, which you cited up in the middle of this paragraph, but you didn't, that source didn't tell you what the conclusions are you drew from your experiment. That's your own information, so you don't have to cite that. So there's 3 examples, and basically for an in-text citation, you use the author with a page number. If you don't have an author, then you put the title, and notice the title is in quotation marks. That's to show that it's not an author. And if there is no page number, you leave that blank. That's all there is to it. Simple in-text citation.